Welcome back. 2 weeks ago on this show, we discussed the shocking explosion of Jew hatred infecting college campuses across America. We pointed out the complicity of the administrations of a number of these schools and played audio of UCLA campus police telling the parent of a Jewish student that the college administration had told them to allow pro-Hamas activists to bar a Jewish student access to his class building. Recently, on Wednesday, May 1st, just a few weeks ago, the House of Representatives passed H.R. 6090, a bill which would require the U.S. Department of Education to use the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's working definition of anti-Semitism when considering whether Jews had been discriminated against under Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Title VI states that, quote, no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. While combating anti-Semitism is certainly an issue everyone should be behind, there were a number of conservative lawmakers who voted against the bill. Their concern was that H.R. 6090 curtails freedom of speech guaranteed by the First Amendment. At issue for these members of Congress, as well as for many Christian conservative influencers on social media, was the fact that the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which this bill adopts, includes the following clauses. First, using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism. Example, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis. And also the clause that says that anti-Semitism involves drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Leading the charge was Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, who tweeted that she would not be voting for the bill, quote, that could convict Christians of anti-Semitism for believing the gospel that says that Jesus was handed over to Herod to be crucified by the Jews, end quote. Now, I'm not a Christian theologian, but it's worth noting that no less than the Vatican itself, not to mention the vast majority of Christian theologians across denominations over the past half century, do not hold the current Jewish people responsible for killing Jesus. There is a big difference between stating that the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem at the time of Jesus had a hand in killing him, which is what the Christian scriptures state, and saying that therefore the Jews, meaning the Jewish people today and of all time, are forever guilty of killing Jesus. But again, I'm not a Christian theologian, and it's not my place to tell Christians what to believe. Full disclosure, my own initial reaction to the bill was negative. I just don't believe that the U.S. government should be passing laws about what is or is not acceptable expression. I also think that bills like this set a precedent that could lead to similar bills being passed in the future that would curtail someone like myself from sharing my own positions, for example, on an issue like the Israel-Arab conflict. After all, the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism also includes this line: denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, example, by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Would this mean that my lead segment a few weeks ago on this show, exposing the hoax of the so-called Palestinian national identity, could be rendered illegal expression should some future bill like this one be presented on behalf of the Palestinian cause? I also felt that in the current political and cultural environment, a bill like this triggers many in the politically conservative community in a negative way, at a time when the government and its law enforcement proxies have been placing greater and greater limitations on the rights of so many Americans, from Christians who are being arrested and harassed by the FBI for praying outside abortion clinics, to parents who are silenced and hauled off by the police for voicing their opinions at school board meetings. A bill that appears to place limitations on Christian expression is, in my mind, unwise and badly timed. This was my view until I read an opinion piece by a journalist for whom I have great respect, someone we have had on the show before. We now are joined by Jonathan Tobin to set the record straight about what this bill is and what it is not. Jonathan Tobin is editor-in-chief of Jewish News Syndicate, or JNS.org. Jonathan Tobin, welcome back to Eyes on Israel.
Thanks for having me.
So there are probably some mistakes I made in my opening there in terms of what the bill is and what it isn't, but I certainly reflected the way a lot of those on the right interpreted it. Could you set the record straight? What does this bill cover? What does it actually make speech illegal? And why is it, in your mind, a good thing?
Well, on one foot, no, it does not restrict free speech. It's a very specific piece of legislation about a very specific act. It concerns Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which prohibits, among many, the Civil Rights Act in 1964 prohibited racial discrimination, acts of racial discrimination. What Title VI did was said that you could not practice racial discrimination in education. That's what Title VI refers to. For decades, it has been used to police, basically, the use of federal funds by the Department of Education to prevent official racial, segregation, all the ills of the Jim Crow era that was part of the American past, and about which there is now a broad consensus from left to right saying we're against racial discrimination, we're against everything related to that part of American history. Title VI is how that is enforced in higher education because higher education gets tons of money. In fact, every school in this country, every college and university basically lives off of federal money, even those with huge endowments like Harvard, Princeton, Columbia. So what happened? Over the course of the last 20 years, there has been a change, and a change embraced by both Democrats and Republicans, saying that as much as we don't discriminate against blacks, Hispanics, Asians under Title VI, we also shouldn't discriminate against Jews, who are not merely a religion, but an ethnic group as well. We know the Jewish people are more than just a faith. We are a people. And it is possible to discriminate against us in higher education by officially condoning or allowing anti-Semitism, just as it would be illegal to condone racial prejudice officially by schools, and that when we speak of creating a hostile environment, no university could allow demonstrations which harassed Black or Hispanic or Asian students, teaching which preached hatred for those minorities, that this should extend to Jews as well. This was first embraced by the George W. Bush administration, and then, interestingly, also seconded by the Obama administration, although they were less interested in enforcing it. Then, in 2019, President Donald Trump made a historic decision. He used an executive order to declare that Title VI would be used, building on what Bush and Obama had done, their departments, that Title VI would be used to prevent anti-Semitism and acts of anti-Semitism, not merely somebody saying something, but acts of anti-Semitism condoned by universities, preventing them from having courses or policies that discriminate against Jews or make it difficult for Jews to live or study in these universities. And Trump also said that when you're deciding what is or is not anti-Semitism, you should use the IHRA standard, the working definition of anti-Semitism, which is the gold standard for how you determine what anti-Semitism is. And yes, it gives various examples, such as denying the rights of the Jews to self-determination, and also mentions, using the old, medieval, stereotypes about Jews being Christ killers. Did not prevent, Christians from believing whatever they want to believe about whatever happened to Jesus, but don't use that as anti-Semitism. This is about actions, not merely the right to believe something. What this law, the Antisemitism Awareness Act, is doing is nothing more than codifying exactly what Donald Trump laid down in his December 2019 executive order. It doesn't restrict free speech any more than the entire Civil Rights Act restricts free speech. It prohibits acts of discrimination. Now, as you noted in your opening, what we've witnessed in the last 6 months since October 7th are, not merely the creation of hostile atmospheres, open anti-Semitism that has been condoned and allowed by universities across America. Everybody understands, Republicans and most Democrats too, other than the anti-Semitic members of the squad, that something has to be done about this. The only way to do something about it, a lot of conservatives agree, yes, we've got to defund the universities. Guess what? The only tool that the law gives us to defund these universities is Title VI. That's why using this via Title VI and codifying IHRA is the only way to defund these schools that have condoned anti-Semitism.
That really does clear a lot of things up. So what you're basically saying is it doesn't criminalize speech. It withholds funding if they are acting in an anti-Semitic manner according to this definition.
Yes.
Please just share with our audience how they could follow your work, how they could follow the work of JNS.
They can go to jns.org on the web, subscribe to our twice daily newsletter, go to YouTube and subscribe to JNS TV to watch all of our podcasts and various videos.
We'll be right back with more Eyes on Israel in just a moment.